What's up everyone? Since my last video, I have been experimenting a lot with the blood build for the rapier. I want to better explain to y'all what makes this build works, the gear I use, the attribute points that I put in, and what are my final thoughts on this build. So first of all, when I first started this build guide, I thought Tondo was the main bread and butter of this build, but Tondo is just one part of it. With Flourish, as I read, this ability actually cools down for every tick of bleed you have on an enemy. And that's just not one enemy. You can have bleed on multiple enemies. Let's say you hit Tondo on 5 enemies. That's 5 seconds already off your cooldown for Flourish. And since with Flourish you can actually cancel the animation by dodging, you can Flourish, dodge, and flourish and dodge, so you can constantly spam this ability when you Tondo a lot of enemies. And I'm constantly spamming this skill in PvE and it's doing a ton of damage, especially when I take the trait Light Edge. This increases the damage Flourish and Finish does, and whenever I'm ready I can go ahead and pop Finish and it'll pop the dots on all my enemies if I needed to. I find it really useful in PvE because when you Tondo all the enemies, your stamina bar is full and you can constantly spam the Flourish ability. Now with this setup right here, we're not using Flurry anymore just because I find that Fletch helps me with mobility for this build. I'm able to get in and get out without needing to have to constantly rely on dodge. So this is another tool for creating distance or getting in. With the great skill tree, we're gonna grab swiftness. This gives us that extra haste for every damage we do on top of the stamina, which helps us move faster, which is great as well. Red curtains, critical strikes reduces all cooldown by 5%, even more cooldown. We don't have Flurry anymore, so we're able to pick up these 2 traits. We'll grab Desperation, deal 10% more damage when your stamina is below 40%. So the combo is yo Tondo, yo dodge, yo wait for your Tondo. You're gonna want to try to get 3 stacks on the enemy. That way you can constantly dodge, constantly spam the Flourish. This build definitely takes a lot of learning and mastering before you get taken into PvP. I find that when I'm Tondoing, when I'm using the skill Tondo, it's very hard to get in on the enemy because you have to wait for the cooldown. It's a 10-second cooldown, but if you hit a single target, it cooldowns a little bit faster. But yeah, it's very difficult to use. That's why you have Fletch to either get in or get out. But this build is I think it's not PvP friendly. It is a very fun build to play with. It's awesome. But as of right now, I think the Grace skill tree is way better in PvP. But the Blood skill tree, I think it's the best rapier PvE rapier build, because you do a ton of damage with your bleed and all that, and you can do some really sick stuff. I actually use the bow because with the rain of arrows you also get another dot on any target you hit it with, and also your poison shot as well. So that's 5 ticks of dot damage on enemies and mobs, and you do a ton of damage. So for my attributes, I actually running a 250 100 constitution build. You have to have enough health to survive long enough to keep your dot damage going, because if you can't get 3 stacks on and you're just getting constantly like wiped, like losing HP as soon as you're able to deal damage, you're not going to be able to get this build going at all. For the dex, we get a 5% critical hit, 5% thrust damage, dodge costs 10% less stamina, so you can dodge more. 10% bonus backstab and headshot damage. That's for either I run this with a musket or a bow, and you know, that headshot damage definitely helps. 10% bonus critical hit damage on stun, slowed, or rooted enemies. This might actually not be that great with this build, so you can actually run a 200 and 150 dexterity build. That might even be better, actually, to be honest. So with your gear, you're gonna be running the light equip load. That way you're able to roll dodge and create a lot of distance. You deal 20% bonus damage and healing. But I've actually tested it on with medium gear, and it actually is not too bad either. With your second hand weapon, you can actually run like a hammer or something to have a lot of crowd control, and with the medium dodge, you actually use less stamina as well. So it's also another thing you could use. But with me, I cannot give up the roll. The roll just gives off so much distance. The iframe is way better, but that's what I'm running for my PvP skirmishes. I think this is the best one. So this is my rapier. With the rapier, there's some bleed perks that you can use. I don't currently have that. I'm watermark farming right now, and I'll come out with a better, like an actual items, like all the best gear to use with it. But I'm just kind of going over what I'm currently using. I like to run it with the musket because I've come from FPS games, and I just love to shoot with the musket. Like I said, the rapier is more of a defensive tool. That's why the grace skill tree is better with the musket. But yeah, you guys, that's pretty much it for the build. I have a lot of fun with the blood rapier, and I love it when I'm able to pop enemies and just one-shot them. I'm gonna try to get some more footage with me PvPing. I'm going against life staff people, and it's a nightmare. Life staff needs to be nerfed. But yeah, that's the rundown of the build. If you guys have any other comments or tips that y'all want to go ahead and share, please leave it down in the comments. Make sure y'all like and subscribe to this video. Next, I'm going to show y'all some basic footage of me in the PvP world going against other people. Y'all have a good one. Fucking got him.
There we go.
Thank God, dude.